And then the second part will be the moving meditation. I just feel responsible also to introduce the technique of noting also a bit. So noting it as a meditation technique is when you become mindful of whatever is happening in the mind or in the body, and in order to make sure that there is awareness of it, you name it. So for example, you are aware of the body and you feel that there is some warmth here in the leg or some tingling in the leg, and you say leg, or you say warmth, or you say tingling. Or you can just make a mental note body because it's something that you feel in the body. Or you can note thought, or you can note different emotions. For example, if you're just scanning your emotional experience, then you can note confusion or joy or different labels depending on what is arising in your awareness in that particular moment. So it's kind of a tool to keep the mind present on the experience in the present moment in a continuous way. So moment for moment for moment, by kind of putting a mental stamp on each element of the experience. Cool. So for the second part, at the beginning, I would kind of introduce the technique. I think I will also need to get up at some point, but before I do, so at first we will have two types of labels. One type will be a body part. So for example, if you're moving an arm, you can be aware or make a mental note that it's an arm. And also try to not leave too many gaps in the noting. So noting while moving is probably slower than noting while sitting with eyes closed, so on the cushion. But generally try to make continuous notes. So if you're for example noting arm, then try to note arm, but try also not to make the notes empty. Try to always link the body sensation with a note. So when you make the notes continuous, that is a tool for maintaining your attention. That is not the goal in itself. The goal is to keep the attention always present on the physical experience of an activity. For now, for the purpose of this practice today, we will keep the thoughts out. We will only focus on the body. So one type of labels is the body part, and the other type of label, which might be more useful at some point, is noting movement. So for example, if you are standing or if you're standing up, then you can note, so for instance, intention, if you're kind of not moving yet but want to move, and then you can move kind of shifting, 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 or lifting, lifting, lifting. The accuracy of the labels is not so important. Just go with whatever comes first. And then you can, for example, do rising, rising, or if you're putting an arm down, then you would say kind of pushing, pushing, lifting, lifting. And the idea is to also slow down the movements as much as it's necessary to keep continuously and constantly aware of what is going on. So for example, if you're moving an arm, this would be, so my arm is now resting on my thigh, and I want to, for example, scratch my head. So now first I'm looking at my arm, and I'm saying looking, and then I feel a bit of pressure and pulling, pulling, lifting, lifting, lifting. rotating, 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 turning, lifting, pulling, 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 lifting, pulling, pulling, touching, moving, touching, moving, curving. So something like that. And I would also encourage you to try and stand up and move around during the meditation. You can maybe, if that's convenient, considering your current um, environment. You don't have to go far, but just to kind of feel into the whole body. For example, standing up from the chair and then maybe sitting back down on the chair. And if you can, also find a little object that you can reach out for to kind of grab it. So how's that for instructions? All right. So we will do this for some maybe 15 minutes. And you will have your eyes open. And you can kind of make a mental boundary for when the practice begins, which is now. So first, you can again bring your attention to the breath before you start moving, and bring the attention to the body. Just to feel the fleshiness of the body. And then you can slowly choose to start moving. And while moving, become aware of which body part carries the most dense sensations and what type of movement you're engaging in. And if it helps, you can try and make, for example, 1 note per second. If more is available to you, then that's okay. If less, that's also perfectly fine. And when thoughts arise, you can anchor the focus back on the body. As you go further with the practice, you can try to be more mindful of the fine parts of your physical experience. So, of the little sensations in the muscles, of the movement of the skin, And then try to slow down a bit more. And keep noting. Notice how the flesh moves in each body part. Notice the tightening and relaxing of muscles. Notice what happens to the breath during movement. And don't forget to note body part and the type of movement. Note the location of sensations of movement, where stronger sensations arise. And track how they move through the body with each movement. You can also note tightness, pressure, extension, relaxation, hard, soft. And if you notice that you are getting distracted, then pause for a moment. You can just stand where you are and bring the attention on the body. If you're walking, you can become aware of the soft part of the soles of your feet, how the flesh, the soft flesh there is moving, being pushed between the ground and the feet. And how it loosens up whenever you lift the foot. And continue noting body parts, types of movement, and very simple physical sensations without getting too hung up about what kind of words you're using. Just make sure to associate the sensory experience with a mental note. Make sure that you are keeping your mindfulness active. If you get confused and don't know what to do, you can stop, stand where you are, and become aware of what's happening in the body. And then you can start walking again, or moving in whichever way, becoming aware of the sensations of the movement every instant. And you can also take this opportunity to observe where these movements are coming from and where these sensations are coming from. Where are these sensations being felt? And where are the movements being guided from? So when there is an impulse to move, where is that impulse coming from? Try and become aware of the sequences of actions involved in movement. And if you don't know how to name them, you can just note that. And continue moving. And observe closely How does the body experience sensations? Where are sensations being experienced? And you can slowly start moving back towards your chair. And this time try and be really mindful of every little movement that takes you there. You can note body parts, movements, and physical sensations in the body. So let's bring this to a close. You can exit the practice.